Eric, I'm glad we have a moment to talk together. Here it is. I know this is what Christians refer to as Holy Week, and I've been thinking a lot. I think that's true for many people, but I've been thinking a lot about the implications of Holy Week and the world that we live in today. We, you know, watch the news, we see the war continue to develop, more and more people engaged. We see so many things that are happening in our own country, not to mention around the world. And it causes me to think about the contrast of Holy Week, at least in my mind. And I wanted to talk with you about it and the implications for today. It, is that the contrast is Jesus was, and I think anyone who takes Jesus seriously in the Gospels, we would have to say Jesus was devoted to showing love and striving for reconciliation, preaching repentance and the kingdom, as opposed to the empire that he was a part of, that he lived in, Rome, which believed in power. And so the contrast is between love and power in the world. And I think that is a very relevant contrast for us in the world today, especially for people of faith, that there's a choice to be made. Uh, and I think Holy Week brings all that together. You see the drama unfold from Palm Sunday all the way across the week to Good Friday. We watch this unfold in the Gospels, and yet in the world that we live in, we still want to, many people are still allured by power. We know Jesus chose another way. He chose the way of love. He could have picked up the sword. He could have used violence. He didn't. And yet, in our own time, we watch how power continues to reshape the world that we live in. And so I just wonder what you thought about that kind of contrast. Do you see that on Holy Week, and what are the implications for our time?
Yes, allow me to share with you is engage because there's so much to unpack in what you've just said uh, to lead out of this conversation. Uh, you may be familiar with the Pope's words in the beginning of Holy Week, where he said, and I'm going to read it here. He says, "This is our God, Jesus, King of Peace, who rejects war, whom no one can use to justify war. Jesus does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, but rejects them, saying, even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood." And of course, he's quoting the prophet there.
That's right.
Uh, this is the essence of what we are referring to in this environment where so many Christians too often side with war over peace. Now, there may be many who will say that you must be a pacifist. And I don't view myself as a pacifist. As Cornel West said, I don't view myself as a pacifist because I likely would have joined with John Brown and and Nat Turner in those insurrections. But those who believe that Jesus, this is what the Pope is um, is seeking to confront. So many who believe in Jesus believe uh, in a delusional way that they are safeguarding the religion of Jesus
Yeah.
by way of violence and bloodshed.
Right.
And these words by the Pope are so prophetic, so cutting, to go to the level of saying, using the words of the prophets, that God will not answer the prayers of those whose hands are full of blood. But he begins by saying, this is our God, Jesus, King of peace.
Right. There's the contrast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's the contrast. And not to recognize that in this moment. Oh, you put it beautifully. I mean that's right. I mean, so Holy Week is the unfolding of the story of Jesus going towards the cross, and of course beyond the cross to that Easter morning. But along the way, we forget that this is our story as well. That this story has relevance for the time in which we live. Because, hey, let's be honest, power is enticing, it's alluring. We want to win. And yet we forget that power tends to be used through violence. That power will utilize violence to have its way in the world, regardless. It doesn't matter if it's children or if it's the marginalized, the poor, the whatever. Uh, so war that's being engaged in, even in the moment, is not war from soldier to soldier. And even so, Jesus wouldn't endorse it. Jesus told Peter, put the sword up, uh, when he could have easily uh, created a moment where there was violence. Jesus went another way. He chose another way. And I think the world we live in is so jaded by the allurement of power that we have forgotten the beauty of love. And I don't mean love in a sentimental way. I'm talking about a love. I heard a Jewish rabbi say it last week. He talked about the loving kindness, the Hesed of God in the Hebrew Bible, and that he described that love as yes, an emotion, but it's always followed. If it's true love, the love of God, then it's always followed by action. So it's not just sentiment; it's more than that. Well, you know, Jesus was committed to this way in the world, that he was trying to show us there's a better way to live. And he lived in an empire in Rome where the Pax Romana was there to keep the peace. But how did they keep the peace? By crucifying people, by using the sword, by using their power to have their own way. And we see this with every empire. We live in this day today, I think, and I think we have choices we have to make, and I don't think they're easy. But I don't I'm not despairing. I'm not going to despair. And I don't want others to despair in this moment. That, I mentioned to you before about Savannah Guthrie's interview with Hoda, all the nightmare of what their family's gone through with someone being abducted, their mother, and how difficult it will be for her to come back to the show to host that show, or co-host it. Um, she had that phrase in there, joy is my protest. Well, I think we've got to find a place and a way to have hope and joy that is our protest. Are things in the world the way they should be? No. there are so many wrongs that are occurring in our time, and we can't remain silent. We can't. But at the same time, the reason many are silent is not because they lack the courage. I think many people are silent because they've given up on the hope that love that Jesus taught can make the real difference at the end of the day. Because all we see is power. We see the display of power.
Yes, when you speak about this concept of power, love, and then you mentioned hope and joy. Remember the whole idea of peace is something that everyone desires.
Yes.
However, the peace that the prophets and Jesus referenced meant being made whole.
Yes.
Uh, and no people can be whole when violence is viewed as a solution to our problems. It dehumanizes us. It doesn't make us whole.
That's right.
And the notion that we hear that over the past perhaps 40 or 50 years of peace through strength.
Right.
This is what uh,
Right.
undergirded the and became the catalyst for the nuclear arms race,
Yeah.
peace through strength. And we've learned
Right.
since then that peace through strength is another way of saying peace through violence, peace through uh, warmongering, peace through genocide, peace through dehumanization,
Right.
peace through terror. But as you've mentioned, it it doesn't make a people whole. What it does is it diminishes all of us. It doesn't it it inhibits our ability to grow into what the creator designed. In fact,
Yes.
it is suicidal. The idea of peace through strength, genocide, violence, bombs, and bigotry is self-defeating and it is suicidal because
Yes.
as you've mentioned, every society, every empire, if we're going to look view America as an empire, and most of the world does, and those who are
That's
honest
right. Yeah,
will
of
come to the
course.
same conclusion that the reason why so many of these empires crumbled is because they confuse uh, power with peace.
Yeah.
Think about the declaration uh, during Holy Week. It's better for one person to die than for a whole nation to perish. This whole concept of peace through war takes us back to what Jesus said: "Those who live by the sword will die by
That's
the
right.
sword."
Yes.
So this is why so many people who studied this have concluded that this is suicidal. And sadly, many believe the reason why the Pope had to make this statement is because so many believe that this is the way of God.
Yeah.
We had a
Uh,
senator who said that this is a holy war,
yeah. Right.
which is a contradiction of terms.
Of course it is. Of course it is. It's a complete misreading and a misinterpretation of Jesus himself.
Yes.
And I think, again, I think Holy Week requires that we make a decision, that we decide. Which way will we go? Will we cave into the the allurement of power as the way to affect change in the world, or will we believe what Jesus lived and taught, that there is a better way to be human that leads us into a better humanity, and it's the way of love. And that's what he was talking about with the kingdom, you know. And I just
Yes,
I think we are at a tipping point in this sense. I think that with all that's happening in the world around us, that I hear it over and over again. People who are just tired. They're weary. They're weary of this. They're weary of what's happening in the world. And it appears that when you all the talk of love and of peace, that it seems that instead we go the other direction as a world. But whatever word I can offer is you don't give up. You don't despair. Don't give up. You've got to find hope and joy as and live it as a protest. That means you don't you acknowledge the problems that exist. You don't turn your head to them. And at the same time, you don't just stay silent because you're weary. If you're tired, then take a break, you catch your breath, find your strength, and then get back in. Let's go. And we see this happening in the world around us anyway. I mean, there are a lot of people who are opposed to the use of power that's happening in the world right now.
yes. What you're saying about this weariness that we see among us, I'm reminded of during the Birmingham movement in um, during the time of Bull Connor. They asked one of the mothers, the matriarchs, who were the ones who were actually leading that. Uh, pardon me, not the Birmingham, but the Montgomery. Pardon me. Many of the matriarchs in the church were leading out in that effort. The
Right.
the Montgomery bus boycott, and Mother Pollard said these words that speak to all of those who are weary today. And that is, she said something that was ungrammatically profound, which was, my feet is tired, but my soul is rested.
Mm,
And um,
that's good.
we can get tired of what we see, but
Right.
never tire in the midst of what you see.
That's right.
Guard your soul, guard your heart.
Yeah.
In the Black church tradition, which goes back to the brush arbors and the old wooded praise houses. What was it that allowed them to have, or what gave them this inner joy to praise God, this celebratory, ecstatic praise in the midst of brutality, in the midst of dehumanization, in the midst of violence, rape, and all manner of horrors, family separations?
Right.
If they could find joy in the midst of all of that, then that speaks to this generation that there's still room. We just have to look for it inside of ourselves. There's
That's
still
right.
room for joy in our hearts. If you still have a praise, if you still have thankfulness and gratitude in your heart in the midst of all of this, that's a sign of hope right there.
That's right. That's right. It it's that's exactly right. Joy can be our protest
That's our protest, yes.
in the world. And the thing about what you mentioned about worship in that tradition is Eric. I see it. I think that in spite of the circumstance, people gathered in worship were looking at the great perhaps.
Yes.
believing that God is the God who hears the cry of the oppressed and that God isn't finished. And the work that God started is still unfolding in the world. And we live in the moment of the great perhaps. You never give
Yes.
up on the possibility. Now, I know that sounds like preaching, but that's what Easter, that's what this Holy Week leads to. It leads to that Easter morning when Christians celebrate the resurrection. You're talking about possibility. You're talking about new possibilities that have not yet been fully lived into.
Yes,
Now
yes, yes,
there is the challenge.
yes. That whole notion of it won't always be like this. Something
Right,
in our hearts, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome one day. This belief, this hope, uh, resurrects in all of us. There
right,
are people who are sitting in prison that have
right,
found a reason to sing. It's amazing the way that it happens. It's a part of being human. You think about the that future hope, how it breaks into our present reality. I got shoes, you got shoes, all of God's children got shoes. When I get
right.
to heaven, I'm going to put on my shoes, I'm going to walk all over God's heaven. So, what does that do for those who are in shackles?
Right.
If I know, let me give you an example. If I know that if I find out that I'm the son of a king, I may be living as a homeless person, but I got the notice that in a few days, we're going to give you your money. And we're going to take you to this trip, and you are going to be with your father, who is the king. What does that do for that person, even though they are spending those last moments on the street? It will cause them to smile.
That's
It's,
right.
they may be hungry, but they'll still be smiling. Their shoulders are going to be squared. Their head is going to be up. They're going to hold their
Right.
chin up. They're going to have joy on the inside. That's the future breaking into the present. And
That's right.
so that's the history of that tradition. You got shoes. I don't have shoes right now, but I'm claiming
Right.
it. I know it's happening in the future. So I'm acting
Right.
today in the way that the creator had designed for the future.
Yeah.
And so we know that deep in our hearts, there's going to be a brighter day. And when that breaks into our future, we can have joy because we're claiming now, we're walking now in what,
Yes.
not what is, but what will be. Yeah.
That's right. The great perhaps.
Yes, yes.
That it and that's the truth about hope and joy. And that's the word I would love to leave our those who listen to this or watch this. I want to leave everyone with is that it's needed in the world. You know, each one of us are needed. And to stay to stay strong and live with hope and joy. It acknowledges the difficulty of this present moment, but it's not defined by it.
Yes, yes,
It
yes,
rises above to the possibility that's not yet lived into. Not yet. We're not there. But you know, we I think that's the challenge for the moment.
yes, yes. There's a Christian song that we sing in the church. It goes to what you were saying about joy being a protest. And the song says, "This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away.
Right.
So this joy that I have is a gift. Those
Yes.
who are in power, those who are so deluded as to believe that violence will solve our problems,
Right.
they didn't give me the joy. The people on Wall Street didn't give me this joy. The my employer didn't give me this joy. This joy is a gift, and the protest is that I refuse to allow anything in this world. I'm going to remain human. and I will not allow anything that's happening around me. And so, um, this is this is what many of those in power are counting on. That
Right.
people would just become so weary
That's
that
right.
they would just lay down and just give up. But history has told us otherwise.
Yes.
That there's something if 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 300 years of enslavement and Jim Crow could not steal the joy of a people, then we know that this whole idea of joy is undefeated. Yes, it may
That's right.
seem like those Rome has been defeated, Greece has
Right.
been defeated,
Right.
Assyria has been defeated, but
Right.
joy has never been defeated. So where's the real
That's
power? We have to ask ourselves that question.
that's a great, yes. That's a great reminder.
Yeah,
You're right. You're right. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. We could go on and on, but
yeah,
for now, I'll stop the recording and but thank you so much for this conversation.
yes,
It's a
yes,
great
yes,
word.
absolutely,
Great
absolutely.
word. I'll see if I can